When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, folks. Mark Ludlow here, Fearless Mindset Podcast. All right, we're changing up a little bit, adding a little humor to the show today. Heck, it's holiday season, why not? Well, today on the Fearless Mindset Podcast, we have Stefanie Drysdale. She's joining us from Chicago. Welcome on, Stefanie. Glad you made the time to get on.
Mark.
You bet.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, Stefanie has been very busy, as you guys all know, all the LinkedIn followers that she has and coworkers and colleagues. She's been saving the United States of cyber issues and saving those executives' families' social media issues, I'm sure. But, yeah, we live in chaotic times, as we all know. So what's going on in your world right now, Stefanie? I'm sure the world's just blowing up at the seams in Twitter land, Instagram land, and Facebook land.
Yeah, I mean, obviously lots going on every day. We're finding out about, satellites being hacked by China and all kinds of things. And then just the basic ransomware a day and, all of the hacked accounts and doom and gloom. But, hopefully somewhere in there, we're all learning to kind of navigate this new crazy.
Now, I was talking on the phone, my business partner down in Orange County. He handles our Southern California business. And he said, Mark, have you noticed there's like cell phone keeps on going out. Wi-Fi is half the time out. The computers aren't as fast as they go. Does that have anything to do with the Russian missile or the rocket they launched on satellite? I have no idea.
I don't think even if it were, they would just, openly announce every single thing because it'd cause a mass panic. So who knows? Somebody could have, plugged the toaster in the wrong switch, or it could be, a nation state. We're just kind of trying to figure it out as we go, I think.
Okay. Yeah, because I know lately my Wi-Fi has been really slow, and I'll make a phone call, then all of a sudden the phone drops or whatever, and it's just like, I think there was a conspiracy theorist, so they want to blame it on a different nation state attacking us. Who knows?
It's an easy target, but sometimes it's just as simple as, updating your software and restarting the device. So it's always a good place to start rather than, going after a nation state.
You got to blame somebody, right?
Excellent.
So most of the guys and gals that watch the show are either in the bodyguard world, executive protection agents, and now we're getting some in the fighter world, UFC fighters. So the audience is very diverse. And so the best way to explain what you do is I work in the executive protection space and also have a consulting firm as well, Ludlow Security Group. You're in the cyber world and you deal with, you have the branding of executive digital protection. That's what you guys do at Prescient, and you've been blowing up over there because of what you guys do. So feel free to tell us some good war stories of hooking bad guys up behind the scenes, or maybe a little History Channel of trafficking that we just saw last night that I watched.
Oh no. Yeah. Well, first of all, I love the executive protection industry. I love you guys. I love what you do. I think being a protector at heart is probably one of the most, selfless things you can do. So I have a huge love and respect for your industry. For as far as us, what we do is really risk mitigation, and we look deeper into people and companies so that people can safely interact with them. And sometimes that involves looking in the mirror when it comes to your own cyber presence. And it's looking at all the devices you touch to make sure that they're not creating threats too. So 4 practices: due diligence, investigation, cyber, and intel. They work really collaboratively with each other, which is super cool. But it enables us to kind of take, research elements and couple them with digital threats and digital information and actual vulnerabilities, and then run it through things to figure out criminal histories and, all of that stuff. So it really is all coming down to being protective like you, but just using some different tools from a distance.
You made an interesting analogy about what you did too earlier offline. You mentioned how the security world that we know it, people think about the outdoor part of it, the outdoor perimeter of someone's estate, let's say. And then, like you mentioned, nobody thinks about that back door being wide open. Can you do more of a deeper dive into that?
Yeah. So, it's when people say, well, that's really cool, but I don't really have a social media presence, or I'm not really active or whatever. I always equate it to, you look out your front door and you make sure you have a lock on your front door, but nobody wants to just leave the back door wide open to cyber threats. So, do you know what people are saying about you online? Do you know if your home address, your kids' school, your financial information, your social security number, all of those things, you might Google yourself and just see, oh, it's got an old address of mine and that's all there is to it. But if I add a little piece from here and a little piece from here and I put it all together, I've got a lot of information. And if I were not well-intentioned, what could I do with it? And I would much rather tell you, as a security practitioner, so that you could fortify and protect your client more than I would, leave it out there in the open for a threat actor to get a hold of it and do with what he chooses to, or she.
Oh, great explanation. Now, do you think, is social media a big player in what we're seeing happening in San Francisco and LA? Because it seems like it's very strategic, very well organized, and they're all communicating on some sort of platform. Do you have any insight on advice on what's happening there?
Are you talking about the recent theft ring?
Yes.
Yeah. So, this kind of goes back to, I feel bad for her protective detail, but the Kim Kardashian thing back in Paris,
Sure.
Every single executive protection agent probably looked at her online presence and just like rolled their eyes and thought, why is this, out there? Why would they advertise this? That just makes their job harder. That just makes the physical protection harder. And it's no different now. It's a really delicate balance. We work with executives, celebrities, athletes all the time. And it's a really delicate balance between putting yourself out in the public and creating vulnerabilities with that exposure. So there really is, not sharing things in live time and not wanting to flaunt your wealth. We live in a world right now with the pandemic, especially, that there's a huge amount of wealth inequality. So flaunting wealth is really insensitive at this point, based on the fact that a lot of people just aren't even eating. They're homeless, they're struggling, they've lost loved ones. So, to put all of that stuff out there, while it's lovely to live vicariously through someone, it's also, a big target that doesn't garner a lot of sympathy, when something bad happens as a result.
Right. And, I've been following you on LinkedIn, and you had an amazing track record of where you came from. You were in real estate at one time, heavily into that. And then you became a director with your company that you're with now. Then you became vice president. You had like a skyrocketing, like a rocket ship type of a scaling of a career. What was the trick for you in that growth? What was the thing that you offered your organization that helped you grow so quickly as a lady and as a woman in the business world?
I think they just took pity on me.
They took pity on you.
No, I couldn't have done that just everywhere, right? If I worked for, one of the big four or something like that, that would have not been possible. Part of what I was drawn to with them was the fact that they were a startup, that they were doing creative, cool things in the space, and that they did have a lot of passion in their leadership. The leadership also really provided a climate where everyone seemed to be very, very respected, for what they brought to the table. And I've said this before in various ways. When we hire new people, it's the same as it always has been. They walk in and I'm super excited and I'm like, what is your superpower? What do you do? Because we are agile. And so I always look for what is it that they do that's going to add to our capabilities and what we offer to our clients. And I think that was how they embraced me. So I was able to, kind of experience that with them as well. So part of it was luck, part of it was timing, part of it was just culture. We had a really great culture. We still do, thankfully. And just to be able to learn, there's a lot of generosity and sharing of knowledge internally. And that stoked a passion for me to where I take that outside of the office and read everything I can get my hands on and have conversations with brilliant people like you so that I can learn from people who are actually touching things. And then just really kind of take it and put it all together and try to, offer it in a way that can benefit someone else.
Thanks for the compliment. Appreciate that.
No, I mean it.
Thanks. Not every day a compliment like that, but especially in the podcasting world. Here's something that I want you to add value to the ladies out there that want to get, let's say, executive protection or even the cyber. What advice can you offer them? Say they're just getting into the industry, trying to figure their way out. They're kind of curious about what we do, what you do. What are the recipe for success that you can give them to help mitigate their risk of failure in their career growth?
Sure. I think women in general can. Men can if they fine tune it, but they have a great intuition. And I think you can look at that and you can feel whether or not you're in an environment where you have a little space to run and a little space to grow, that you're able to make mistakes safely, right? Not too far, but like enough to where you can put it out there and you can take risks and you can learn, and people will be generous in sharing with you. People are open. People aren't, pushing back on anyone trying to get close to information or anything like that. And I think once you find that kind of circle, whether it be internally where you work now or through an external group, I think LinkedIn is a great place for that. I think that ASIS and Women in Security and a lot of these other organizations, both for women and industry related, are a great place to just be a fly on the wall. If you don't know yet, that's fine. Listen, suck it up, absorb, just take it in. And eventually it'll start to make sense. The dots will start connecting, and really take the initiative to educate yourself on whatever subject matter you're passionate about. And I think that as that comes, then my next advice, and I say this all the time too, is say yes to everything, right? Everything. If someone asks you to talk to a kindergarten class, go talk to them. This is all stuff that's going to culminate into public speaking and perspectives and questions that maybe you hadn't heard before. And I think ultimately it ends up creating a place for you to form a path to wherever it is that you want to go.
So becoming a student / servant in the industry.
Absolutely. If you're out there just to self-promote and see what people can do for you, unfortunately, I feel like that's a very short path. But if your path is to just learn, take it in, help where you're needed, say yes to things, offer value without asking for anything in return, then I think good things just come. It's good karma.
Right. Yeah. There's some great gold nuggets you just dropped right there. So people listening to this show, please take notes, because Stefanie is dropping some gold nuggets as we speak.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. But hey, what's the big thing your clients are wanting from you guys at the corporate level, the C-suite level and above? What are their issues that they're dealing with?
It's everything. It's, right now, the great resignation is happening for a lot of people. So, they're wanting to retain talent. They're wanting to see, if their talent is an insider threat. They're wanting to hire new talent and make sure that they're vetted properly. They're wanting to acquire, other companies to kind of consolidate some of those expenses that we're all seeing that maybe could be more efficient if, there's an acquisition there. They're wanting to look at their online presence and try to avoid things like ransomware and problems like that, cover their themselves from a compliance perspective. Protect their executives. Now they're starting to travel again. So travel intel and where they're going and what they're doing, just making sure that, they are protected from every angle. And we're also seeing a lot of threat attribution right now, anonymous threats that are coming in through various methods or whatever. And they're trying to figure out who's behind it. Can we identify this anonymous person? And then can we add some color to their likelihood of actually committing these threats and following through, and any history of violence, all of that kind of stuff. in addition to the normal, what's on the dark web. Are we as a company super exposed, and what can we do about that?
Now, those bad actors, are they easy to find with the agency, with their tools that they have within the government? Are those bad actors easily to locate with their ISP numbers? Are they floating ISP numbers around the world? Is it hard to find them? What does that look like when you're doing like an investigation on a case like that?
Right. I think, the government sector obviously has tools that aren't available to everyone. But also, the private sector, we have tools that aren't available to everyone too. So part of those tools are to be able to take a lot of information that's been compiled over years and years and years and create a multitude of pivot points. So if you give me one data point, there's a really good likelihood that we can pivot enough times to fill in all the blanks. And that is everything. And it's used as a protective element as well as an investigative element for when, something's already occurred.
Wow. So there's a lot of algorithms there going on, a lot of engineering probably in the back end channels. So you be at vice president at your level, you're overseeing the whole organization, probably below the president.
So I do directly report to our president. We have cyber practice head, a cyber practice head. We have practice heads for all of the practices, and they report directly to our leadership as well. My role is a little bit unique in that I don't dotted line to anyone, but I'm not a practitioner. I am kind of a weird hybrid kind of thing that's just kind of, I don't even know that we have a name for it other than what we've done, but thankfully there's been value in it. But yeah, the practice heads, the leads of those departments, they have full teams of people that do all kinds of different things and branch off into various skill sets and levels of expertise and all that. So I have all of that at my fingertips when we need it. So it's very, very helpful. And I like to spend time making sure that we're finding ways to, cross collaborate with all of those things, because I think that makes it a far more greater value to not only encourage convergence, but practice it internally. And we've definitely practiced what we preached there.
Nice. Sounds like you guys have a great culture over there. As growth goes in the tech world, it's going to probably get worse as, we've had the COVID thing, the pandemic on us. And then, I was thinking about you when I reached out to you. I'm like, hey, we got cyber holidays coming up. So everything is cyber sell. I'm like, holy crap, everything's be getting hacked on their Amazon accounts. I'm like, I need to reach out to Stefanie to see if she has words of advice for all the stay-at-home mom, maybe businesswoman moms out there or businesswoman wives out there that are doing all the shopping. What are the tips of shopping you can offer them to so they don't have their identity stolen or their credit card or debit card stolen for Christmas?
Well, my first tips are for the dads to do some shopping too. Like
there you go.
That's the safest practice you can employ, is make sure you're doing some shopping too. But outside of that, it's really the same cyber hygiene we use all the time for other things. But, understand that with the holidays, there's that extra dose of social engineering that we're going to see when people reach out and say, oh, it's this amazing, too good to be true deal. And this, this thing that no one else can find. I've got a great deal on it and a special thing. And just, do this or just give your information to get this. Be really mindful of things like that. Any kind of new websites that you're not familiar with, make sure you vet them. I'm going to say the same thing with your emails. Don't interact with emails that come to you. Any type of outreach that comes into you, you should always be wary of, even if it's just an Amazon confirmation. It could be a spoofed email. It could be a phishing scam. It could be any of that. So go to the source, go around to the source, whether you have the app on your phone or you log into your own account. Just don't click the things in the email, just in case that it's a really, really good fake email. The other thing I would say for things like that are use credit cards when possible, rather than debit cards. A lot more protections on, the money that's in your account. If it is a scam, if something does go wrong, if that retailer is breached, then your information is far safer, and there are limits, to the damage that can be done if you purchase things through credit cards. Those are added protections. Keep a watch on those bank accounts. Make sure that you know what's coming and going. Don't get lazy with that. And then just don't store things. You don't need to save your credit card on file with every retailer. You don't need to save your logins. Just vet everything and use a really, really strong degree of caution. There's a ton of other things. Don't shop on public Wi-Fi. Enter your card in front of other people. You're in Starbucks and you get out your card and you're putting it in while somebody's behind you. Like, just normal social engineering stuff applies there too.
What kind of advice can you offer to all the moms, all the ladies going out there shopping for Christmas? They're out in the public. Do you have any safety tips for them when they're shopping? Especially like LA, San Francisco right now, where everybody's getting nailed with smash and grabs.
Yeah, I tend to like to avoid places that I feel like are beyond my level of capability when it comes to self-protection. I know there are a lot of people that could probably physically protect themselves to various degrees. So my first tip is to stay home and shop online, or, travel in groups. Be mindful. Don't get distracted. Just, keep your information in terms of like your cell phone, your stuff close to you. You don't need to be shuffling through a big old bag. You don't need to be carrying a bunch of branded merchandise on your arm and all of that. There are better ways to do that. And again, don't flaunt wealth. Flaunting wealth at this point is just a really, really delicate thing. Like, it's even going to lunch at a certain restaurant carrying a certain bag with certain jewelry is something you have to be really, really careful of how other people perceive that.
So quarantine your wealth. If you don't have to go out, don't go out, shop online. But if you do go out, go in packs of groups of friends.
I wouldn't necessarily say you have to travel in packs, but like, be mindful. I wouldn't, as a single person by myself, I wouldn't take the triplets out, with my Louis bag and, super distracted and, do that whole thing, carrying a bunch of, expensive shopping bags around with me. That would probably be something that I would anticipate could be problematic. So just be safe, be mindful, keep your head on a swivel, that kind of thing. Head on
a swivel, watch your six, as they say.
Well, hopefully you're not shopping in a place you can bring your six, because that could be problematic too.
Exactly. Yeah, with all the smash and grabs going on in Beverly Hills and Rodeo Drive, it's been crazy over there.
I can't imagine. I feel so sorry for those retail workers having to, nobody's really prepared for that in that type of position. These are teenagers with their first jobs and people with families. It's a really unfortunate climate for all kinds of things right now.
Yeah, I just had a potential client call me from the San Francisco Bay Area, and they own a huge building, and one of their tenants happens to be Starbucks. And they said that the employees don't even want to go to work because they're scared. They're going to get shot.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I didn't think about that. So the repercussions are in many, many aspects.
Yeah. A lot of people are quitting their jobs. It's people want to be home where they feel safe. A lot of people are insisting upon remote work, and that, eliminates a lot of opportunity for, retail, restaurant, all of that kind of stuff right now. So, employers at this point are really in a scrambling posture to figure out how to move forward based on, where we are today, and not ideally where we have been.
Yep. I would agree with that. Totally. I was going to ask you some questions on social media. What are the hidden dangers that people are unaware of? Like, let's say Instagram, because Instagram's, I think, more popular than Facebook. And then you have Twitter, but it seems like Instagram's like the hotspot right now. What are some advice? Like, I'm hearing people they can go shopping on Instagram now to buy stuff. That's like, what the heck? Things are changing. Any advice from you on how to avoid any hand grenades or something like that, or any problems that could be problematic?
Yeah. So I think, on social media in general, just make sure you check your settings. Your privacy settings should be locked down. You don't need to use your real name on those things. I know that certain ones like you to use your real name, but on the ones that don't, you don't have to put it there. You don't have to use a name attributable email because those can be guessed too. Make sure you always, always, always have multi-factor authentication enabled. That way, if you do have a credit card stored on there, which I don't recommend, that if someone takes over your account, they can't just, fill out their shopping list in the process. To also don't do things in live time, right? If you're at a restaurant on vacation, shopping, whatever, wait to share those much later. You don't need to do that. And if you tend to frequent the same places or the same area, then don't share them at all. You don't need to alert people to your pattern of life and things like that. I personally am not a big fan of sharing photos of kids. That's to me, that's a consent that they're not young enough to give. And as they get older, then that's a conversation. But when they're young, I wouldn't share their likeness and all of that online and all that. I totally get that they love it. There are small contained little groups that you could do that, but maybe openly I wouldn't. But yeah, if you're interacting with those things, I always like to, if I find a website I like, instead of just logging in through the social media platform, I like to create a separate account on the other thing. And unless I think it's maybe less secure that way, and you've got to kind of, weigh that out. But if one of them is breached, which is the one that's more likely to be breached, and you don't want all of these accounts tied to one account, because that's like having one username and password for everything. But if the Facebook account is much more secure than this retailer, then, it might be worth it in an isolated incident and then remove the link later so that all of those things aren't, a domino effect if one gets compromised.
Yeah, I hear so often that people are always using their Facebook to log in their phones now. And then once someone steals that, your phone's gone. And I'm like, why do you do that? It's like people give way too much power to their phones and their personal lives. Like, whoa.
It's convenience, right? It's
Yes.
the same thing that we used to do in real life, where we would just, have a pocket full of money because we didn't want to hassle with credit cards. And you don't lock your front door because it's easier to come and go. And you leave your keys in your car because that's easier to come and go. We learned we couldn't do that. And now we're trying to get people up to speed, thinking that way in the digital world, that you are leaving the keys in your car. You are making things very simple by using the same password on all of your websites. And they have tools to kind of help. So if you have a password manager, then that'll help you keep track of everything. Even though I know it's not super convenient, but I promise you a breach isn't convenient. It's just not. We see really, really elaborate identity thefts that, hopefully could have been prevented with just a few simple things like not sharing your cell phone number, not, using the same password on everything, not oversharing on social media.
What are the biggest breaches taking place right now in the corporate entity that you're seeing? Is it just financial people just trying to get other people's data to sell on the dark web? Is that kind of the majority of it now?
Well, I mean, ransomware is agnostic, right? They really don't care. I mean, there's been a huge spike in certain things like healthcare and finance and all of those things. But for the most part, if they can ask millions, and hold a company hostage because it's something we all need, like a pipeline or a food service company, then, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. They're happy to accept it from anyone who will give it to them. And they're operating now like businesses. Wow. They have like little customer support teams that help you go through the ransomware process. And it's very much a Stockholm syndrome kind of feel to me that, the person that harms you is the one that's acting like they're trying to help you. It's really unfortunate.
Do you think that's going to become more prevalent because we're becoming more of a global currency with Bitcoin and all these other type of blockchain type of currencies that are going on right now? It's easier to get access to that kind of money.
Well, criminals like Bitcoin because it doesn't run through the normal channels. As soon as we make Bitcoin run through the normal channels with AML and KYC, it's not going to have the same draw. It's still going to have great benefits, right? Bitcoin has benefits. It's, it's a smooth currency. It's agnostic to different cultures and things. You don't have to go through certain banks and they take their cut and do all that kind of stuff. It moves just like currency does. There are advantages of it, but it still needs to be regulated. It still needs to be taxed. It still has to have all of those kinds of parameters so that it's not just, something that can slip underneath the radar of law enforcement and all of that. And it's, law enforcement already can track a lot of things and do a lot of things with Bitcoin. So yeah, I don't think that's going anywhere. But I think ransomware in general, there are a lot of people who maybe didn't realize how rapidly it would grow. And just the whole security by design of what we were using before, it wasn't part of the design. And now that we know, you've got a lot of brilliant people working on this. And whether it be from the regulatory end or whether it be from the business protection end and the encryption and backups and, the exposure, reputational damage on dark web, people are starting to put the right protections in place so that I think these ransomware groups are going to maybe not have as easy a time in the next couple years as they had last year, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how the ransomware attacks and all the cyber stuff has really blown up. And at the same time, Bitcoin's value just skyrocketed at the same time. I was like, I wonder if there's a coincidence with that. Maybe organized crimes are using that to fund different stuff. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it has a criminal element, but statistically, I think it's 8% is used for criminal activity. So it's fairly minimal in terms of statistically. But I think that the appeal with Bitcoin in certain ways is it appeals to the masses. It's highly speculative. It's like a penny stock, right? You can have a 15-year-old that buys $100 worth of Bitcoin, and before you know it, he's a multimillionaire or a billionaire overnight. So there's a lot of draw to that when people are in a very uncertain climate and they don't really feel like they have a lot to lose.
True. Yeah, no loss. They can lose whatever they can lose, and everything they gain if it pops, if they get that lucky break, like you said. And it's crazy. It's great. I wonder if this is the reason why we have like the big recession, or the what do they call that in LinkedIn? The resignation. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of. Well, we can't even find people that want to work because everybody's trading Bitcoin and they're making money on Bitcoin. Then working, they go, well, I'm not making an average $300 a day. Why go work for $250 a day when I'm making this much money in Bitcoin? So I'm like, maybe that's why we can't find anybody that wants to work anymore. I don't know.
I mean, it may be part of it, but I think a lot of it too is just there are other companies that are ahead of the pack when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, social issues, remote flexibility, being, more tapped into the human element of things, whether they're more progressive or, their numbers align more with how the rest of the world wants it to look in terms of balance and promotion. So I think the companies that are struggling right now are the ones that are just like, okay, go back to the way we were, because that will not happen. There are too many other options. That's, it's kind of like going back to, cooking from home every night. Nobody's going to do that. Like it's an option. People use it, but we're never going to just not have fast casual and takeout and delivery and all of these options and everything. It's our lifestyle. It's the way we live now, and work has to adapt to the world we live in now. And that includes a lot of humanitarian soft skill type issues that used to were optional, and they're no longer optional.
Wow. So we're going to see a major shift in the corporate way of working, probably more permanent remote working opportunities with big corporations like Amazon and stuff, where they're going to allow more flexibility in the workplace.
Yeah, obviously there's some, places, emergency room doctors can't really work from home remotely. Like they're going to have to actually go in. But I think there will be options for people who do want to work from home and people who do want to contribute in that way. And it's an adapt or die at this point for companies to realize that this has to be an option for some people, and both have pros and cons.
Yeah, totally. I talked to a buddy of mine. I can't name names because he works as a contractor for a certain company, one of the biggest ones, shipping firms in the world. But he said, 80% of their workforce is now working remotely permanently. And so it's hard to get anybody to go into who wants to take a drive an hour and a half one way to work. It's just nobody wants to do that anymore. So they're getting very picky on what they want to do. Another question I was going to ask you, Stefanie, was we got the new variant. How is that affecting the workplace and what you guys do cyberly? Do you guys have to deal with that much? Is it misinformation coming out? Is it true or false? There's a lot of stuff, a lot of hype, a lot of fear being created right now going into the winter time. How is that affecting your firm as far as checking it's false or making sure it's true information? It's kind of wacky.
Yeah, we do a lot of what we label COVID monitoring for multinational firms, just because people who have, or companies who have a multinational presence, have to handle each location based on what's happening near them. This new variant, they're so far saying it's not horribly bad. It's not good, but it's not as, the big, bad, scary stuff. So I think that for us as a US, based company, we have and continue to see a lot of polarization in political climates and how COVID-19 information is weaponized within that. A lot of it's coming from foreign government, and it's really difficult for me to watch the debates go back and forth about just, narrowing it down to our political system when it really isn't even that's not behind a lot of the misinformation, and technically it's disinformation. It's really, really challenging. But what it's doing is it's creating a threat climate with our clients where, someone is really afraid or nervous or has a home situation that's unique and uniquely affected by COVID. And it's making them very angry at their leadership for making them go back to work or making them, risk, exposure. And just it's coming out in a lot of insider threat frustration and, threat attributions and things along those lines. So, if I could just encourage people to be very cautious what you read, double, triple check your sources. Most of this stuff isn't about us. It's not, blue versus red, left versus right. It really, really, truly isn't. We're all on the same team here, but, the goal is to divide us. And so far it's been very effective, unfortunately.
So you think, is it 80-90% probably inaccurate information we're seeing on our threads, Google, Facebook, probably?
I think it depends, right? So,
okay.
Our threads look different. My thread might look, or my feed might look different from your feed,
Sure.
Based on the algorithm, the things that we follow, the sources that we prefer. Our feeds could look very, very different. I try to vet my feeds to be as agnostic as possible, as impartial as possible. And I seek my information. I don't let it just come to me. So in that way, we try to kind of filter the information through a neutral, as unbiased as possible type source. And I think that's the best thing that you can do. You can still have your opinions and your leanings and all that. That's the beauty of being
right.
where we are, but to not let people use that against us.
Like you said, probably a lot of foreign adversaries, foreign characters outside the U.S. government or the U.S. country feeding in the algorithms and via internet, trying to make us think things are true and they're really not. And people start believing, like I always heard the saying that ask a teenager what they think. They say, look up on Google. Google will tell you it's the Bible for everything.
Yeah.
If Google says it's true, it's true. And I'm like, you got to do more vetting than that.
Yeah, it's tough. But it really is important to vet the information and to, kind of ask yourself who has the most to benefit from us being divided.
Yeah, nothing I'll hit on too. I know I just watched, I'm on this History Channel kick with human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the episode was on all the older ladies were getting hit on by these characters, the soon to be guys, and they're working in Africa trying to get money. And we're going to Christmas holidays. There's a lot of single people now because of COVID-19. Some relationships broke up, whatever. What is your advice to the single people that are dating in the cyber world? What things can you advise them to do to help safeguard them, protect them from being taken advantage of from somebody else?
Right. Well, you touched on a few really important things, and I'm going to be the fun police here.
Okay.
So, the whole older, thing, and the younger man from overseas, whether he pretends to be a soldier or he's a Nigerian prince or whatever, those are romance scams. They prey on the elderly. They prey on people being very open and very gullible in a lot of ways and being very lonely. The trafficking element, that tends to prey on a younger victim. That tends to, you could be a model, you could do this, so yeah, if you just meet me here for some pictures, and then things can go wrong from there. It all comes down to the thing I mentioned with the shopping. Anytime you put yourself out there and you are overexposed, whether it be sharing, pictures of your cat or your lunch, or, quotes and Bible verses and whatever else, that kind of sends a message. There are little cues that tell a scammer that you're more lonely, you're more susceptible, you're maybe tender-hearted, and you are easily, swayed to, get that sympathy going.
Right.
Or that you're trying to escape a situation. You're a young girl, you're angsty, you tell people that you don't get along with your parents or something, and all of a sudden, that this person can be a white knight for you. All of those things kind of come together to make this person reach out to you and tell you what you want to hear. This to me is going to be the same as when you get a phone call that you don't recognize the number. Lock down your social media so people can't just reach out to you. Don't respond to people that you don't know. Don't be so quick to believe the scam, the deal, the romance, the hope, the whatever. Just don't drink that Kool-Aid. That is not what that is for. That is not the avenue it's going to come. Blessings come, but they're not going to come in the form of a Nigerian prince. I promise you. And I'm really sorry to say that and be the fun police, but that is not how you're going to, find the person that, you're going to share Sunday morning coffee with, right? That's
right. Well said.
Someone online that wants something, right? And I'm almost empathetic to a lot of these scammers because of the worlds they live in and the few opportunities, the very few opportunities that they actually have. And their justification is they've got to feed their family too. It's a job. It's a clocked in, clocked out 9 to 5 kind of thing for some of these people. So it's not personal, right? But you just can't engage, can't answer, you can't interact, or you fall. It's very likely that it'll tug at your heartstrings. You're just human. We are human. And these scams prey on human nature. That's why it's called social engineering, because we are all prone to certain gullibility because we want to believe the best in each other.
And I think I see a huge increase of it because of the holidays. We just got out of lockdown. We celebrated our first holiday being Thanksgiving. Now we're going into Christmas. And then, the misinformation is going out there that, oh, shoot, we maybe get locked down again a couple weeks before Christmas. This is misinformation. I don't know. I'm not CDC, so don't ask me. I'm just Mark, the security guy from LA and California. I'm no subject matter expert. But what Stefanie is saying is so true, because we're going into Christmas and it's a tough time to be single. If you're single and if you lose people, you get lonely, and you always want to be with people during the holidays. And that's why the scammers hit twice as hard this time of year, because they know our psyche. They know how we're thinking. Like Stefanie just said, they're watching your social media. If you're telling you're airing out the laundry, your dirty laundry on social media on how you think and feel, you're going to get hit hard.
Yeah. I think, what's the saying that, if you're thirsty enough, you'll drink sand.
Yes. I heard that in the Marine Corps, I think.
Yeah.
So
it's
true.
Really unfortunate, but there are other ways, and I will say all those ways can be social engineered. So there's always a degree of caution, but meet people through, tell people that, that you care about, that know you, that love you, that you're open to meeting someone. Volunteer, be a part of an organization, like get out there, put yourself out there. Yeah. And just, add value again in your personal life in a way that you feel enriched, you feel, productive. And, just trust the universe that things will come.
They work out when they're supposed to.
It'll come together. You don't have to force it. And wanting to believe a lie, as much as I totally understand where some people go there, it is not true. It will not have the result that you hope it will. And so it's better to just avoid. And, if someone it could even be someone you went to high school with that suddenly reached out on LinkedIn, all of a sudden. And then before you know it, it's a money thing. Oh, I need money for this, or my kid's sick or whatever. Like, just use a degree of caution. Your brain should always, lead the path. The heart should confirm, but the brain should always lead, because human nature is just so prevalent, and scammers really, really do exploit that. And we're all susceptible. I'm susceptible. We all are. So we just have to be careful that, we're going into it with both eyes open.
Great advice to the audience listening. You got some dating tips. You got some holiday shopping tips. We got some what not to do in dating. And then, you're beyond bodyguard and cyber world. We got a lot of gold nuggets on this show. Any more advice? Any last words of wisdom, Stefanie? Any place people can find you for possible business consulting projects they need your help with?
Sure, of course. I mean, I'm always easily reachable on LinkedIn. Sometimes slower to respond than I like, but always easily reachable on LinkedIn. And feel free to check out Prescient.com and just see what we do, and kind of poke around. It's really cool stuff. There are a lot of people in the industry that are trying to work together to to protect people and do some cool stuff. So we like to count ourselves as one of them. So feel free to reach out. And my best advice would just be have a happy holiday, and
there you go.
Enjoy, stay safe, and stay out of trouble. Don't click stuff.
Don't click stuff. I like that. Watch your email. If it looks kind of shady, it probably is in your email.
Yeah, go to the source, go around, just avoid anything that comes to you. Phone calls you don't recognize, emails you don't recognize, text messages. Just don't interact with them. Just go around to the source and go through things that way. Always.
Well, I heard. What was her name? She just came on my show. Gina L. Osborne.
Okay.
FBI retired FBI agent. She said, if you're meeting somebody and you're questioning their identity, just do FaceTime on your iPhone. Call them.
Yeah.
If you meet them online. I'm like, that's a great idea. So she gave that advice. So those who want to meet somebody, just FaceTime online or do a Zoom call and see if they're real.
Yeah, I don't honestly have any experience with that, but just in terms of the vetting part of it, that's it's transferable from a lot of other use cases. So for sure, be really, it used to be trust but verify, and now we've moved to zero trust and all that. It's probably a difficult way to date, especially if someone dates online, but. Again, I would just always use a degree of caution when you do that. There's one thing that you order a bad shirt. It's another thing that you meet a bad human. That's a bigger risk when you're doing something like that. So I don't know that I would put a lot of trust in that process unless there was a lot of verification.
Great advice, Stefanie. For the folks listening to this show, I got Stefanie Drysdale, and she's the vice president of Cyber Prescient, and she's running this operation over there under the president. They're a nationwide company doing executive digital protection, and reading my notes as I say all that. And this is Mark Ludlow. You can find me on iHeartRadio. We're also on Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and then if you're on YouTube watching this, or if you're overseas, you can just watch this on YouTube. Subscribe to Mark Ludlow as well. You can find us there. And of course, Mark Ludlow Security Group. And we protect your personal assets, property, and Stefanie protects your digital assets.
Absolutely.
So that concludes the show. I know Stefanie's got other things to do besides be on podcast all day and talk to people and sign autographs. So So we'll wrap up the show. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Stephanie and I. If you want to talk to her, just reach out to her on LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on the Fearless Mindset. This is Mark, and we'll see you soon.